Your Fitness Business Podcast Snapshot. What is self-leadership? Why is self-leadership important? And finally, how to become better at self-leadership. All of that and more coming up in today's episode. You're listening to the fitness industry's leading business podcast for owners and managers. This month's interviews are brought to you by Active Management. Hi everyone, it's your host Dory Nugent, and welcome to this week's episode. It's number 309 with Derek Deprey from the Wisconsin Athletic Club. But before we get started, here's a quick message from Active Management.
Hi FBP family, it's JT from Active Management, the founding partner of the Fitness Business Podcast. Thanks to the amazing technology at our fingertips, we can now work with clients all over the world. But right now, you can join the free online Active Management Facebook community. It's an amazing group of people just like you. Sure, I share weekly resources, but it's the power of the community that you will experience that will make this your go-to Facebook group. Remember, it's free, fun, and inspirational. Go to facebook.com/groups/Active Management Community.
Fitness Business Podcast family, before we get started with today's interview, I'd just like to take a minute to introduce you to Derek Deprey, our guest. I first met Derek at the Ursha show about a few years ago. I walked into his session and I've been a fan ever since. Derek has a special gift of connecting with people, whether it's through his team meetings, a public speaking event, or through his latest accomplishment, a book entitled Shift. I'm excited to have Derek on the show today so that you can hear his teaching about self-leadership. We've had so many wonderful guests on our show talking about leading teams, but Derek is going to take us inside the topic of self-leadership. Derek is a well-sought-after public speaker as he speaks all over the U.S. Plus, he is, like I said, a published author. And he works daily in the fitness industry as he is the Director of People and Service at the Wisconsin Athletic Club. Take a few minutes for yourself today and listen to what Derek has to say. I guarantee you, it will make you not only a better leader, but definitely a better coworker. And now, without further ado, I introduce you to Derek Deprey. Welcome so much to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here, Dory.
Yes, I hear that Wisconsin accent.
Yeah, I'm sure you do right away. Most times, every time I go to speak, especially in Florida where you are, people don't even think I'm from the same country. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's that Midwest.
Like I'm from Canada.
Well, it brings a little fun to the listener, right?
Definitely.
Your accent. And of course, I don't have an accent at all. So it's so great to have you on the show today. I'm gonna talk with you today about self-leadership, which is a really interesting topic. I don't think it's something that we've had a lot of leadership topics on the show before, but this one, it sounds like it's going to take a little different spin. So I'm really excited to get started with it. So Derek, maybe just take a minute just to introduce yourself, maybe tell us what you do at the Wisconsin Athletic Club.
Excellent. So I'm the Director of People at the Wisconsin Athletic Club. So I spent about 10 years as a general manager starting in 2008. And after those 10 years, we grew a lot. We almost doubled our business and we added a bunch of clubs. And then just within the last 2 years was a standalone Director of People role. So what is Director of People? It's a fun way to say human resources, because so many times, unfortunately, human resources professionals are just behind the scenes and in the trenches, but they're not necessarily with people. So we decided to call my role Director of People. So the focus is on the front end of human resources.
Yeah, I really like that title. That's the first time I've heard of that title. And I find it very interesting, very engaging.
Mhm.
Great conversation starter if you're out somewhere and, the classic line is always, so what do you do for a living?
Exactly. And then right away is, what is director of people? They laugh and they never heard of it before. So
But that's okay. That's good. Something different.
exactly.
So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what your philosophy is on self-leadership.
Yeah, philosophy on self-leadership, I would just back up a little and just think about what is self-leadership. And I define self-leadership as working to become the best version of yourself. And then leadership would be helping others become the best version of themselves. So my philosophy on self-leadership would really the best way to look at this is to look at a culture, let's say in an organization or a club. And I believe, the best way to have a strong culture is to start with self-leadership. So there are really three parts to a strong culture. It's leading self, and then I think leading others, and then leading teams. But it starts with leading self. So what is leading self? Leading self is finding and forming, I think, your core values, what deeply matters to you, having a relentless pursuit of personal growth and development, finding and knowing your personal vision, executing that vision, like what are the behaviors you do every single day and are they leading you on a path to that vision? And then really weaving and blending your values and your vision with your club's vision or your organization's vision. So you live this life, this integrated or authentic life, which I call work-life fusion versus work-life balance. But it all starts, I can't lead others unless I'm able to understand and lead myself.
Yeah, now you mentioned about core values.
Mm-hmm.
And, I hear that term thrown around a lot, whether it's talking about a business finding its core values or personally finding your core values. What do you think the best way for somebody out there to find their core values?
Yeah, first of all, I would say just get alone and reflect and really think about what deeply matters to you. And you can ask yourself questions like, what would my best friends say about me? What would my family say about me? What values do I want to instill in my kids or my best friends, right? Who am I really? And I think just asking yourself those questions really gets you deep. And then you're not like reading all this stuff out there, watching all these things and having other people form your values. They're actually truly your own core values.
And Derek, do you find that your personal core values change month to month, year to year? Do they ever change?
The answer is yes, they changed and they have changed, but they haven't changed over the last, I would say, 4 to 5 years for myself. And just an example, when I worked in professional sports for the Milwaukee Bucks, and this was like in the early 2000s. And I had to make a decision whether I wanted to work there or not. And the best way to do that is really go to your values. And back then, my values were like sports, basketball, money. And looking right now at my life, those aren't my values at all. It's positive attitude, the things I'm passionate about, and spending time on the things I'm passionate about. So they are completely different. So it's important to go back to this activity, I would say, annually.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. We do it within our club once a year. We sit down and look at them and we question, do they change or do they not change?
Exactly. And then do they match what the club's values are? Because so many people have all these values all over the website. If I was in a room right now of 50 people and I asked, raise your hand if you know your core values, typically when I do that, only like 2 out of 50 people will raise their hands and know them. So like you said, we talk about it a lot, we hear about it a lot, but do we really go through that reflective activity to really find and form what they really are?
Right. So Derek, why is self-leadership important for leaders or for anyone?
Yeah, I think the toughest person to always lead is ourselves, right? We always talk about leadership and we overlook our biggest leadership challenge, which is me right here, the person I'm looking at in the mirror. And most leaders want to be a leader worth following. And I think self-leadership is the key to ongoing influence and ongoing execution. And the key word there is ongoing, because I might be able to influence somebody one time. I might be able to have great execution or get something done one time. But the key to doing it every single day is to really know who I am, know where I'm going, and then have those behaviors that put me on a path to success. Because I don't really care how successful anybody is right now, right? But do they know their vision? Do they know what success means? And are their habits putting them on a path to success each and every single day? And those could be things like on the self-leadership side, I would say is saying no to something so you can say yes to something, carving out alone time to work on a project, knowing what your big project is, blocking off time to do those big things. You know, in our industry, it's obviously working out, but are we also blocking off time to prepare for a performance review before you have a performance review? Are you okay as a leader getting out of the club and getting out of the trenches for 60 minutes a day and trusting your team to lead the club so that you can lead yourself and come back into the club full of energy, knowing what that agenda will be? So when you're in the club, you're with your people. And when you're out of the club, you're behind the scenes attacking that business side of things.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of your fellow Midwesterners, Luke Carlson, I like the term he uses. He calls it a clarity break. And I know he talks a lot about getting out of the club, and you can go anywhere, coffee shop, maybe, it's your home. But yeah, taking time to get out of the club and just, really focusing on one specific thing, whether it's self-improvement, maybe it's business, whatever it may be.
Yeah. And I call the clarity break my daily U zone, YOUZONE, where that moment or that 15, 30, 60, 90 minutes is all about you, laser focused.
So being the director of people at the Wisconsin Athletic Club, how do you help your managers at the WAC to get better at self-leaderships?
Yeah, this is a great question, because when we talk about self-leadership, you think about yourself all the time. But I always like to tell people, but don't lead yourself by yourself. It's okay to have a mentor. It's okay to have a coach. And the way I do it at the Wisconsin Athletic Club is really, we hear so much about having one-on-one meetings and how important one-on-one meetings are. And I've decided not to call them one-on-one meetings anymore. I call them coaching sessions, because I believe that moment for the one-on-one meeting is more than just a performance of a club in that moment. It's really finding out who they are, discovering where they're going, and helping them design how they're going to get there. So we really break down self-leadership. We'll find out as soon as I have a new manager or I step into a club to act as an interim GM, I'll meet with the managers every other week to have those coaching sessions. And we start with values. We go into a relentless pursuit of personal growth. We go into vision, we go into execution, and we make sure they're living this integrated and weaved life before we go into teaching the leadership side. This at the Wisconsin Athletic Club is under an umbrella that we call WAC University. So it's like our internal education system. And then it kind of evolves into workshops and training sessions. So right now, with COVID, we've kind of froze the face-to-face meetings. So really the goal for 2021 is to get more virtual. And it's breaking down those three areas I talked about earlier. So we'll have a leading self track, leading others track, which is teaching them how to coach and have one-on-ones. And then it's having that leading teams track. So there'll be like 5 workshops under each one of those WAC University umbrellas.
So Derek, talking to the managers out there that are hopefully listening to today's episode, what advice do you give the manager that's struggling with one particular team member that's just not getting the self-leadership concept, or they're not practicing the self-leadership concept?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is to schedule time with that team member right away. Don't look at this as a check it off your list item, because so many people are going through so many things that have nothing to do with the club right now. So somebody could be completely frustrated because something happened at home. Maybe their grandma got diagnosed with COVID, and they don't know what the result is going to be. So it's just, I think, getting deep and having that conversation with that person and truly listening and understanding and having empathy there, and not going in, I don't think, with a rigid agenda. Because I think the dangerous part with what I'm talking about is, you got to go in and find your core values. You got to know your vision. But I would say step way back from that. And they might be what I call their crash right now, their moment of deepest failure or frustration. And they just need somebody to help navigate and ask them the right questions to get them out of that. Like, what is your ideal day? And let them just talk. what is your ideal role or position, and let them just talk. And maybe there is a way you can help them get to where they want to be.
So tell me a little bit more. You use the word crash.
Yeah. Yes. Crash. What is your deepest failure, personally or professionally? Some people had them early on in their life and they don't know if they're going to have more. Some people I'll call their mid-career crisis. They're in it maybe right now. I had mine in 2006. I was the director of basketball operations for Marquette University men's basketball. And I was asked to give out an award in front of about probably 300 donors and boosters of the program. NBA Hall of Famer Dwayne Wade is out in the crowd, and Digger Phelps on ESPN. And I literally got up on stage, up on the podium. I had notes in my pocket and I completely froze. I forgot everything I was going to say. And I just literally turned and looked to the player and said, and the award goes to Joe Chapman. That's all I said. I walked back to my peers at my table. I couldn't look up. I wanted to crawl in a hole and never see my peers ever again. That was my deepest crash. And that has haunted me. That haunted me for the next 18 months. I actually left Marquette University because of that moment. Because I thought every time somebody saw me that was employed at that university, saw me in that moment and thought about that, which is called the spotlight effect. Nobody's probably really even thinking of me or thinking of that moment, but that's what I thought. So I ended up leaving, and I ended up confronting my fear of public speaking because I was able to jump around and leave and help increase that confidence by going with new people.
Yeah, I've seen you speak at URSA, and you didn't crash.
Oh no, thank you. Yeah, I'm really hoping that doesn't happen again.
And I've also seen you, you do a lot of posting, which I follow, and I really enjoy your content. So hopefully our listeners after the episode today will jump on board. You put a lot of tidbits out there. It looks like you do a lot of blogging. I've seen a lot of your pieces of when you've spoken. You'll put some of the tape out there, the video out there. But yeah, I don't see you crashing anymore. You do a great job. Your tidbits are really neat. I really enjoy following along. One of the things that I liked that you talked about, it's probably maybe a strong year ago, about going paperless.
Yes.
I loved that.
Interesting. That's you're the first person I think that actually brought it up in something. But yeah, that was a while ago, and I think I blocked off 2 days and just had it in my head like I'm going paperless. Mm-hmm. But the takeaway there is to go paperless. My office was messy and full of paper, and I think that goes back to the crash a little bit. Things are going to feel uncomfortable. Things are going to feel messy, and you just have to navigate and get yourself out of it. But you first have to make the decision to do something afraid. I might have felt afraid to get back on stage and speak again. I might have felt afraid to go paperless, right? But I made the decision to do it afraid. It's like the last 5 seconds of NCAA tournament, right? You can make the decision to win the game or hit the last shot. All you need to do is take 5 seconds and make the decision in your head to just do it afraid.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like about your tidbits are, your little video clips, because there's a lesson within them. You're not just like, hey, I'm going paperless today. You had a reason, you had a purpose, and you talked about your feelings and your fears of going paperless. And that's what I like about it. It's almost like a teaching lesson in there, whether you're speaking out loud of your own teaching lesson or you put it out there like you're talking to me, like when I'm watching it. So I really enjoy that.
Thank you.
So let's just get back on track a little bit about the self-leadership. What leader, Derek, do you feel has helped lead you to this higher level? You're climbing and climbing.
Yeah. I go back to a few. One gentleman, his name is Bob Osipka, and he was an assistant coach for the Milwaukee Bucks. And what I really liked about him is he worked really hard. He was there early. He stayed late, but every single day he carved out 60 minutes to take care of himself and get a workout in. So Bob Osipka. Tom Crean was the head coach at Marquette University. On the self-leadership side of things, he truly put family first. I didn't have kids when I was working for him, but now that I have kids, I see what he was doing. He integrated and weaved his kids into that basketball program so well, and he wasn't afraid to bring his family into work. So seeing his little kids grow up there was cool. So it's like the club setting, right? Why not bring our kids into the club setting and have them grow up around our profession? And I would say another one would be the last one I'd share is Ches Misko. He's in this industry. He's our chief operating officer for the Wisconsin Athletic Club. And, I mentioned, the first book I ever read in its entirety was a 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. Well, I never read a book in its entirety until then. And that was because when I came to the WAC, they had a relentless pursuit of reading blogs and books and emailing you articles and putting books on your desk and things like that. Because when I was in basketball operations all those years, all I was doing is consuming basketball, and I didn't really know anything else was out there. So he got me hooked on that journey by just asking me, what is your plan for personal growth and development? I didn't have a plan. And because of him and because of this organization, I now have a plan for personal growth and development.
Do you find any of the staff members that you are trying to teach about self-leadership, do they bulk at it at all? Do you find there's just some walls harder to break down than others?
When I have a relationship with somebody, there's no bulking it down. I don't see that. It's when I don't have a relationship at all with the person and you're just kind of trying to throw this stuff at them where it seems artificial or fake, not real. So that's why I do think before you get in an agenda of self-leadership or leading others or leading teams, I think the foundation is, I go back to that crash, learning about somebody and being that we hear about being a vulnerable leader all the time. But when I share my crash of failing on stage, or here's another one, I failed my ACT exam in high school. That opens people up, and then they realize this journey of self-improvement and self-leadership is the real deal.
Derek, just to rewind, you just mentioned that the hardest way to teach somebody about this self-leadership and to get them to buy into it is when you don't have a relationship with them. Can you just share maybe one or two quick ways that you decide, okay, I need to build a relationship with this person, and how do you go about that?
Yeah, definitely. I would say number one, schedule a workout with somebody. And I know it's our industry, but I tell that to people outside of our industry. It's such a fun, casual way to connect with somebody. So get that workout in. And then I would say the second way to build on that, and I learned this the hard way, is to schedule coffee, tea, smoothie, lunch, breakfast with somebody. Because don't stop at the workout, because the workout is just like creaking that door open. They're not going to get super deep with you in that, but that barrier is kind of gone. But then that coffee, lunch, breakfast, whatever is going to take it to a whole nother level. And then you can show care by bring a notepad, take notes, and follow back up with that person on the things that you're learning about.
Yeah, I was so hoping you would say about the workout. I've heard you talk about that before. I've heard you talk about the walk and talks. And I've heard you talk about doing the workout. So I was hoping you would share that with our listeners.
And just to step back a little on a club, and this could apply for any organization. Whenever I go into a club, and I learned this the hard way, by the way, I didn't do this the first time I went into a club, but I decided to do what I call a 30-30-30 plan. So in the first 30 days of taking over a club, or let's say an organization, or even a department, I try to do 30 personal training sessions, 30 walking meetings, and 30 group fitness classes. Now that was way too much. I was really sore. And I think I even had knee surgery after that, which was just ridiculous. But you can do a 30 plan and do one of those things every day. And then you connect with your 30 top people in a club or in an organization.
Yeah, I love all your tips. Again, following along with you for our listeners out there, you should follow along Derek. He puts a lot of information out there, and they're short. They're very short. They get to the point, but they're good little nuggets.
Thank you.
So just to wrap up, Derek, a lot of this information you have in your book, and I'd just like for you to share with our listeners tell us about your book.
Yeah. So my book is called Shift, Move from Frustrated to Fulfilled. So it literally is that self-leadership journey where I work through 5 different gears. Gear 1 is finding and forming your core values. Gear 2 is the principle, pursuing personal growth. Gear 3 is vision, visualizing your preferred future. Gear 4 is flow, which is following an APE formula. I'm kind of an acronym dork. APE represents attitude plus your passion plus execution of your passion. So those are the behaviors that will take you to that vision. And gear 5 is the only gear that has to be in order. All the other 4 can be in any order, but gear 5 has to be gear 5, and that's fusion, fulfilling your ideal life right now. Not waiting till retirement. You're doing it right now in this moment. The next 50 years, you are going to live your ideal life. And that's what this book is going to help you do.
And we're going to put your book in our show notes. So listeners out there, if you're driving right now, you don't have access to a pen or a paper or your phone, we'll put it in the show notes.
Get your pen ready now for Keep Me's Fit Bizpiration.
Derek, can you give us 3 tips on how to get better at self-leadership?
Yeah, definitely. Number 1 is discover who you are. Really find and form your personal core values. Number 2, discover where you're going. What is your personal vision? So you have the values on the bottom, you have the vision on the top. Your values are that foundation. And then the last thing I would say is design how you're going to get there. What are the behaviors you need to do each and every single day to put you on a path to what success means to you?
Keep Me, smarter member retention. KeepMe.ai.
Now let's get back to our show.
Derek, thank you so much for coming on the podcast with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you about self-leadership.
You're welcome. I had an absolute blast. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and everyone, you have to go, like I said, in the show notes, we'll put in your information so that they can follow you or ask you any questions maybe that I didn't ask, but they'd like to expand upon your knowledge and dive a little deeper into this topic.
Thank you.
Well, have fun out there in the Midwest.
I appreciate it. Let's enjoy the last 5 days of summer, right?
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for coming on the Fitness Business Podcast.
You bet. Take care.
Derek Deprey, you knocked it out of the park once again. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode. Now, here is a message from our podcast partner, Tribe Team Training.
Are you interested in increasing your center's income and your trainer's income from small group training? Tribe Team Training is the new way to get more members engaged in small group training and paying extra. Click the Tribe Team Training link in the show notes or go to tribeteamtraining.com.au/podcast for your free formula to see how much income you can make from small group training.
Quickfire 5.
Enjoy this week's Quickfire 5 with our special guest, Frances McCouria.
Fitness Business Podcast. Hey, here's our Quickfire 5 questions with Frances McCouria. Frances, number 1, who inspires you in your life and why?
I would say it's my mother. My mother was a teacher herself. She was a piano teacher, and she was full of passion in life and in her work. She taught us how to be compassionate, kind, and to be brave. She's the strongest woman I know, and I think of her whenever I encounter obstacles. Sadly, she died 23 years ago after battling with cancer for over 6 years, but she always stayed optimistic and strong.
Oh, that's lovely. I like that. Very nice. All right. Number 2, Frances, why do you do what you do?
I love what I do. I feel so fortunate that I can be working in a field doing something I am so passionate about. Not only that, I'm strongly committed to making a difference to people in a positive way, to get people to move better, to become healthier and fitter, and stronger both physically and mentally.
All right. Well, so here's a good one for you. If you weren't doing what you were doing right now, what would you be doing? Like, what else would you be doing?
I would probably be thinking about why I am not doing what I am doing now. I mean, I think I would most likely have stayed in academia, publishing my book, which was meant to be written before I committed to launching my fitness studio. But I would definitely still be coaching clients and teaching group exercise classes. as I've never stopped doing it, and I absolutely love it.
Well, then it sounds like you're in the right spot. So number 4, how about a book, podcast, blog, or Facebook group that you could recommend to our listeners?
I read a lot, so it's really hard to select just one book. Personally, because of my own interests, I recommend any book on modernism and architecture or modernist architecture.
And our last and final quickfire 5 question is, what will be an action item that the FBP family will take away in your main interview next week?
Well, I hope the FBP family will be inspired by how important the design is in a fitness studio. Of course, what is being offered in one studio, classes, facilities, the type of training programs are critical, but the actual spatial experience is just as important. With both combined, this will definitely create the wow factor in anyone's studio.
We absolutely look forward to your interview next week. So FBP family, tune in next week when we talk with Frances about design and fitness.
Now let's hear a message from our podcast sponsor, Precor.
Tribe, if you haven't explored a functional training space for your gym, then now is the time. With Queenex Functional Training by Precor, there is a unit to fit every space. Plus, education is included to ensure that training is delivered with confidence. You need to jump online and check this out right now. Go to precor.com/fitness business podcast. Hi everyone, Chantal here again. Thank you for joining me for this week's throwback episode. It's that part of the show when we take a little trip down memory lane as I share some of my all-time favorite episodes from the first 5 years of the show. Today we wind back the clock to November 2017, and it was a first appearance on the show by my special guest Mark Miller, the Chief Operating Officer of Merit Clubs. During that episode, we chatted about lessons a fitness business manager has learned from outside the industry. This was such a great episode. When we caught up, we talked about important innovations from outside the fitness industry, applying outside lessons into a fitness business, and Mark shared some tips for staying up to date with what's happening outside the industry. If you haven't yet heard that episode, then make sure you take a listen today by clicking on the link in today's show notes, or simply go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and search the show number 132. Happy listening.
A warm thank you to everyone out there for joining me today for this week's show. And just a reminder that all resources and links for the episode can be found at fbp.com. Thank you also to our founding partner, Active Management.
Hi FBP family, it's JT from Active Management, the founding partner of the Fitness Business Podcast. Thanks to the amazing technology at our fingertips, we can now work with clients all over the world. But right now, you can join the free online Active Management Facebook community. It's an amazing group of people just like you. Sure, I share weekly resources, but it's the power of the community that you will experience that will make this your go-to Facebook group. Remember, it's free, fun, and inspirational. Go to facebook.com/groups/Active Management Community.
What you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.